Hey, hi, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of the NASJE Spotlight podcast. Today, we're here with Judith Anderson, who recently retired from the Washington State court system, to chat a little bit about her experience in NASJE, judicial education, and now, as she started her retirement, all of the fun things she's getting into these days. Joining me here is Erin Burdick from Illinois as well, who's going to start hosting these podcast. So great to see everyone. And hi, Judith. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. This is a treat.
Yeah, we're excited. We missed you in Columbus. So I think it'll be exciting to hear what you're up to. We kind of are doing the same format for everyone. So we're going to start out maybe a little superficial, but we've learned a lot of fun stuff from these questions. So our question number one is always coffee or tea?
No coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee. I have my little Keurig now back behind me, which I do, but when I was still going into the office, I used to stop by Starbucks all the time. I got more money back in my bank account because I don't have to stop there all the time anymore, but I used to stop there on the way in. So coffee.
Nice.
So follow-up question to that, what is your go-to coffee order then at Starbucks?
Oh, it was half calf, Americano, 2 pumps vanilla. That was my treat on the way in, and had it drunk before I think got into the front door, but that was what I got.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. It's always interesting to hear what everyone's different orders are. Our next question is, do you prefer the beach or mountains?
Oh, I was going over that one. I do mountains. Mountains are peaceful and beautiful, and they're just got the color, etc. But I have to put a little adage in there that my father grew up down by the beaches, and as a kid, I was always down at the beaches digging clams and just having fun. But I do prefer mountains.
Okay, I think you might have been the first person that didn't say both on here. No one wants to decide. And so I think you might have already shared one of these with me, but what is the favorite photo you have on your phone from the last month or even month or two?
Well, I did share those that you'll see a little later here, but recently we had some friends take a picture of my family, my husband, myself, and my 2 kids who are twins. And then my husband found an app on his phone that could change your pictures. So I've got several on my phone now, and I did not send them to you, but the whole family turned into doctors, so her whole outfits would change. Then he turned us into scientists, to nutcrackers, a family of elves, and a bunch of other things. So those have been my favorite recently because that happened over the holidays.
We might need the family of nutcrackers. You know, we have
I
our
don't know.
sweater party coming up.
He gave me dark hair, and I look like I don't know what I look like. It's not me.
Amber, that sounds like it would be a great picture for the NASJE newsletter. Judith
I think so.
and her family as nutcrackers.
I was going to get the name of that app too, because we were in hysterics after everybody was gone and he was sending out pictures, and I'm like, oh my Lord, it's pretty fun.
Maybe that's going to be the treat at our coffee talk. We'll have to get the NASJE board as nutcrackers or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. Now, Judith, I always think it's fascinating to hear about how, we arrived at our jobs as judicial educators. And so I kind of want to ask you, what was your first job and where did you start out your working experience?
My first job was I was in high school, and I was a bus help at a restaurant. And I would go in the evenings and work. But I also had the Sunday shifts, which is all the pancakes and syrup, and I was just drenched in syrup, and by the time I was home, and so there was years and years and years I never even got near syrup. I can smell it now, but that was my first job that I ever did.
On that same line of questioning, that was your first job. What has been your most favorite job you've ever had?
Well, of course, being the educator, the judicial educator. I mean, I learned, when I got the job, I was like, judges, justices, who are these people? I never really dealt with them. And so really getting to know them and the court system, and also being able to meet so many people that we brought in as faculty that I would never know ever in my lifetime, and just fascinating and learning so much. So that was been kind of my most fulfilling, and that's why I've been there so long.
Well, that's awesome. And I always think it's interesting to hear, what do you prefer, books or movies?
This is hard. When I was working, it was movies because I didn't have time to really read the books. I'm trying to get back into the books because it's a different headset. But movies are pretty cool. It's kind of nice to just chill with a movie.
Oh, I understand that. And as we're transitioning into winter season too, it's going to be a good thing to have some movies and a nice book. So that's always fascinating to hear.
And also, you got to put in kind of the social stuff. I do YouTube a lot with my husband. He gets some strange things, people doing all sorts of things around the world, which just enlightens you. But, recently I've been watching this one. It's called Art Deco, and it's a woman who goes through and looks at all the great works of art and tells the backstory. And since I have a background in arts education, the backstory to the painting is always just fascinating. So I've been kind of hooked on those. So it's not book, it's not a movie, it's YouTube, which is kind of strange.
Like that. I'm just used to seeing my nephew's Spider-Man videos on YouTube. So that sounds like a much better use of YouTube than I'm familiar with. And also kind of along that line, is there something you could share with us that you've either read or saw this week that you thought, wow, that's great, someone else?
Yeah, it was kind of, same thing. This is on Facebook, another social thing, and it was from a WOW community, which is kind of a crazy Facebook page, but it profiles sometimes unrecognized women. And this one was a woman who discovered or the universe or how the composition of our universe is. And her name was Cecilia Payne. And it was interesting to read about her, that she was never given the recognition and she's never in the history books. You got Isaac Newton, you got everybody else, but not her. And she was fascinating. It's a good read. Even, look her up on Wikipedia. It's just the life. It just makes you be humble. So that's kind of the most interesting thing I've seen this week.
Awesome. We'll definitely have to check that out. And you mentioned earlier YouTube, and I know that Amber and I have been working to get the NASJE podcast onto YouTube as well. So you guys are going to be able to start listening to us on that platform. So that's exciting to hear as we continue to move forward. Now, we kind of had a little conversation before we started recording here today, but what do you prefer more, in person or virtual?
There's good on both. Yeah, the virtual was strange by far, all of us being thrown into it. But, just being here quiet, there's no noise of the office and just talking one-on-one, and I can reach you pretty easily. So there's really advantage there. But in person, I'd rather kind of sit down with you with a cup of coffee and say, how you doing? And really talk with you a little bit more one-on-one. So I like both, and there's pros and cons to each. And even when it's education too, the education was okay online, but being able to engage with people and really read them when you were in person is really valuable and something I've missed over the last couple of years.
Okay. I agree. It's nice to be able to see people from everywhere, more often rather than the once a year or twice a year that I saw them before. But that personal connection is always nice. Mm-hmm. You mentioned in one of your previous answers that you've done this job for a very long time. How long have you been in judicial education?
You ready for that? I've been in since 1984 when I was 25-ish. Got into the business. Dr. Carol Weaver, she hired me and taught me the ropes over the years, and worked with judges, administrators, county clerks, personnel, line staff, everybody and I just was cracking up at 25, little old me, working for the Supreme Court of Washington State. I'm thinking, this is a good elevator conversation. Oh, yes, I work for the Supreme Court of Washington State. And people go, really? And they're like fascinated about it. So you got a hook right there.
Well, things work out how they're supposed to as well. And I know through NASJE and through your experience with NASJE, you've been a valuable member during your time. And so what is your favorite part of being a member of NASJE? What are some of the highlights that you've experienced in your career?
I think, I was with NASJE when it was very, very small. I was around the first time a woman became a president of the association. I was around when they allowed others into the association, like the National Judicial college, the valuable there, and other different transitions. I think, the people, meeting the people at the conferences, getting to know them, listening to some of the programs, allowing myself to open my mind, bring what I could back to Washington State, which is the whole thing, being on committees and really getting to know people and getting to travel on the board. I was on the board on every kind of position except treasurer. You wouldn't want me in the treasurer position, but I was in every other one. And getting to travel to those kind of meetings was very enlightening and, a growing experience for me. So just people in general.
We know you've met lots of folks through NASJE, as you just described. Who do you think was the most influential NASJE member on you?
I had a hard time with that because, gosh, I just, grew with so many people. Of course, Karen Thorson, she was kind of the top, but Michael Roosevelt, who's recently retired, just gentle giant, and just chatting with him and learning with him. Joseph Sawyer down in Nevada. Claudia Fernandez has been retired for many, many years, but still really involved. And just Christy Toll. There's other people. There's so many, because as you meet them and you work with them, you find out so much more information, and they give you those highlights and those aha moments that you don't get, if you just working. So I couldn't really put one person because I know so many.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. And I think you named some very valuable individuals that have a wealth of experience in the field of judicial education. I know for me, I have the privilege as well of working with Joseph Sawyer, and I'm very grateful for that time as well. So it's always fascinating to hear how we all have different connections and how we can all become one big family and support our overall cause and mission. Now, you mentioned you had a very long and healthy career in judicial education. And so what do you feel like is your favorite part of being in judicial education in the state of Washington?
My favorite part was always when someone came up and said, that was great. I learned something. I can use something. As a teacher, I have a background in teaching. It just is, I got through something. I got them what they needed, etc. It's always the highlight, whether it be a justice who came up and said that, or someone who's a line staff who came in and said that did it. It's just, as a teacher's, blood, it's like, oh, good. That was really good. I didn't teach them myself, but I made sure that they got what they needed in that educational program. I did teach them if they did faculty development, though, and kind of if they wanted to learn how to teach a little bit. So,
yeah, I was gonna say those are always the best comments when you're teaching a class, or even if you're just sitting in the back because you helped put it together. When someone comes up and says, "Oh, that was a great session," I think that sense of pride and all the time was worth it, right?
It was. Hearing him talk about it, good or bad, because we've all had some bad ones.
Yeah.
And when they were talking about it, geared them up. They were chewing on it, and that's just fine. That's, you can go back and bring back what you need to help you do it, or just let it go. It doesn't matter.
And we already alluded to this, but we've heard that you've been doing a lot of very fun things in your retirement so far, and we'd love to hear about that and your plans for the next year or 2 years or however long.
I retired on July 30th with my husband. He worked a lot of years too. We worked in the same agency, the Administrative Office of the Courts. He was in the computer section. I was in the education section. And we retired, and we kind of looked at each other. I think the first thing we did is I had this huge, huge jar of change, and it was full, and we started counting the coins, and there was so many. We'd go into the banks with these little bags and put them in those coin counters, and clink, 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 and we got about $900 out of that thing. And that was kind of the first thing. And then cleaning that corner over there and doing this. But then we planned a party. We gave a party for our retirement to friends and family. So we were working on that. And then we went to Iceland. We did what we call the Golden Ring or the Golden Circle, whichever way it is. And you drive outside the whole entire island of Iceland. And it's about 8 days. And so we flew into Reykjavik and spent the night, and then got going in the car and started driving around this beautiful, beautiful Iceland. It's gorgeous. It was about September, end of September, so there was fall colors. Snow was starting to come in. It would be one day beautifully, the next day it would be raining or snowing. There's times that we were doing things where it was snowing, raining, sunshining, did everything. So it's a land of fire and ice. That's what they call it, and it truly is. It's got an active volcano right now. My heart goes out to the Icelandic individuals because they've had an active volcano down in the south in a very populated area, sort of. But you could go through there and you'd see mountains, you'd see lava, you'd see volcanoes that you could walk up. You saw wildlife, lots of sheep and Icelandic horses. And it went from being very farm-like on one side to very, molten lava on the other side. And we saw geysers and geothermal stuff. The island, it's 82% of the people use geothermal heat. So it's just amazing, and just was a wonderful trip. If you're a nature lover and a walker, I recommend it, because you just pull off the road and you'd start walking and you'd come to a gorgeous waterfall or some other kind of beautiful thing. And on one side, there's the glacier comes out, and they are bouncing around in a lagoon in these huge things of ice going around. And they go out to sea, and then they come back on this black sand, and they're called diamonds because they shine and shimmer. And it's just beautiful. You're just with nature. If you're a nature person, go there. That's what we did. And I think you have some pictures of us going from waterfall to this to that. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah,
I always think it's fabulous. You mentioned that you had all of your change, and that kind of probably was a good help for your retirement party and planning and getting able to get all the food and stuff situated. And I always love to hear about individuals' travel stories, especially when it's been a place that I was also at as well. I've been to Iceland, my wife and I. We did our honeymoon there in 2019. So it's a very fascinating place, and so we'll definitely have to talk more, Judith, about your experience there, because they have a ton to offer, and it's a fabulous place, and that's always fascinating and exciting to hear someone else venture over that way. Now, what's some of the best advice that you've ever received? And it doesn't have to be, designated to your role as a judicial educator, but some of the best advice that you've heard.
Well, there was a judge that was retiring, one I'd worked with for years and years and years. And she said, "Judith, I was given this advice and I'm giving it to you." She said, "You will know when it's time to retire. I can't tell you what that feels like, but you will know it." And she was right. It just was there. And it's hard to explain. You're young, you're not going to retire for a while, but you will know when it's the right time to retire. And that was the best advice I ever had. That, and then another judge who had twins like I did when I first had him, he said, "Judith, you got to treat them just the same. You can't have one or another. You're going to have birthdays together, you're going to have this, but you got to treat them just the same so they feel like they're getting the best of you both and not one over the other." And I tried to do that too. And hopefully they feel that way.
Awesome. Well, two very great pieces of advice.
Motherhood, retirement, like it.
Man, I wish I was closer to retirement some days, but
it goes fast. It goes fast.
It does. It goes faster every day somehow. As we watch our coworker, I don't have kids myself, but watching my coworkers' kids, they're in high school now, and they used to be, little hands peeking out from under the desk while they had a day off or something up at the office. So it's wild.
It's wild.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We pulled you out of your retirement back to NASJE for a bit. I had
to pull the scarf out. I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to dress up."
I love it. And thanks, Erin, for joining me and working on this podcast together. We look forward to many more episodes.
Yes, I agree. Thank you all, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Erin and Amber. Thank you very much. It was fun. Go back to work now.